It's Electric Focus, and this is a bit of an issues update. I'm going to be talking about three things today in the video. First of all, the recall, the H441 recall. If you've watched my videos previously, you'll know that I had to take mine in to have the software updated and it failed. So I had to go back in again, and you'll find out what happened there. Secondly, I'll be talking about the state of health of the battery after 3 years of ownership. And lastly, I'll be talking about my old friend again, the front trunk has come back as an issue. So let's get into the video and find out what's going on. So first of all, let's talk about the recall. So if you've been watching my videos, you will know that I had my car go in to have the H441 recall done. This is a safety recall to have the software updated so that it can detect a potential thermal overload, which if that happens, it needs to go back into Jaguar to then have some repairs done to the battery and potentially a whole battery replaced at the worst case scenario. And this is because it could lead to a fire. There have been some fires that have been reported, but hopefully only a few at the moment. So that's the update that should be done. Most of you probably, if you've got a Jaguar I-PACE, I would think of having it done by now. But if you haven't, it's definitely something you need to get done because it is a safety recall. So I took mine in to be done because the 2019 and 2020 models have to be done at the Jaguar dealership because they can't be done over the air for some reason. I don't know the full reason, but anyway, from 2021 onwards, any models there can be done over the air. So that's much simpler. You don't need to take it in. So I took mine in, and unfortunately they couldn't make it work. So it failed a few times, and they said they'd need to speak to Jaguar. So I kind of wasted a bit of time taking the car in, waiting for it to be done, came back and they couldn't do it. And it's also worth noting that when I went in to have that done, I also asked them to look at the state of health of the battery because I wanted to know how the battery state of health is now after 3 years, and I thought it would be useful to share with you guys as well. So I asked them to have a look at that. Now they said that they could do that and that was fine, and they let me know the results. Anyway, when I went back in to be told that the software update didn't work, they also told me that they couldn't do the state of health check. And I said, right, why not? And they said, well, we've checked with our engineers and they've said that it's not something we can do. And I said, are you sure? And the person I was dealing with said, yes, they're sure. They said that it can't be done. And I said, well, how do people then, if they're buying a second-hand car, know what condition the battery's in without a state of health report to show them the degradation over time? And she looked a bit puzzled and said, oh, I'm not quite sure, about that, but they've definitely told me it can't be done. Anyway, I left it at that because I couldn't be bothered to argue. I thought I'll go away and I'll speak to Jaguar about it. So I did contact Jaguar and I had a chat online talking to them about the issue, and to be quite frank, they weren't particularly helpful. They just kept saying that they couldn't give me the answer to that. It was too technically difficult to answer. And I said, well, can you put me through to somebody that can answer the question then? And they said, no, you need to go back to your dealership. They should be able to deal with it. So I went, okay. I gave up in the end. I sort of went around the circles and I decided I'll pick up with the dealership again. So anyway, my car, I was waiting to hear about the car to go back in for the recall, and I chased Jaguar and they said, eventually, yes, it needed to come back in. And I said, well, look, while it's in, I'd like you to have a look again at doing a state of health check because I've been told by Jaguar Land Rover that you should be able to do it. And so it sounded a bit vague on the phone, but said that they would look into it again and see what's possible. So anyway, I took the car back in, and this was about 4 weeks later. I had to wait about 3 weeks for an appointment, and then took it back in the 4th week. So I left it there, and then I got a taxi back so I could do some work throughout the day and then just wait to hear from them, and arrange to go back later. And then I got a call later on to say the good news is that the software update worked. So great news, it's finally done. So I've got peace of mind that I know my software is fully up to date. So that was that. So I already planned to get a taxi back. So I got my taxi back, got there, and I asked them about the recall again, make sure everything was okay. And they said, yes, it was, that was fine. And then I asked them about the battery state of health check. I said, I nearly forgot about that actually. But I did ask you to do the battery state of health check again. And they said, well, actually, yes, good news, we have managed to do it. So I said, well, that's great. I said, but why was I told it couldn't be done in the first place? And they said they had a chat with their senior engineer who said, yes, it could be done. It just takes a bit of time and they have to check every individual cell. So they gave me a report, which I've got here, which is a few pages long, and it's a bit faded. It looks like the printers have run out of ink. I'll put a screenshot up now so you can have a look. And this is just page 1, but you can see that it varies between 90 and 92% on that first page, and it kind of averages out over all the cells of around 91%. So that says to me that after just over 3 years of running the Jaguar I-PACE, I have now got state of health for my battery of 91%. So if the usable battery is reported to be 84.7 kilowatt hours, then I take 91% of that, which is 77.1 kilowatt hours. So that is the state of health of my battery, and therefore I should see a range, if you take, say, the kind of average range of 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour. I've been getting much more than that recently, actually this summer, between 3 and 3.4 recently on a trip I did. But if you just take that, the sort of average throughout the year, that kind of 2.8, then you're talking about a range on a full charge of 216 miles. So that's how much it's dropped down from what I was getting in the start, which is sort of 225 to 235. I have to say, I couldn't even tell you that I've noticed that, but that's how it should work out because of the state of health of the battery it is now. So I don't think that's too bad after 3 years, sort of under 10% degradation. And from what I understand, it doesn't really change much after the first few years. You see this sort of drop initially, and then it stays fairly flat for a while. So I've still got a guarantee on this battery anyway. It's an 8-year warranty or 100,000 miles, and I've only done about 25,000 miles. So that doesn't sound too bad to me. What do you think though? And perhaps you should get if you've got a Jaguar I-PACE, perhaps you to have this checked out yourself, particularly if you're looking to keep it long term, or even if you're looking to sell it so that you understand where it is right now. And I certainly would recommend, if you are going to buy a second-hand Jaguar I-PACE, that you should ask to see a report that shows the state of health of the battery. I don't know why they wouldn't have that information. I mean, I would think anybody's going to ask that now when they buy a second-hand car. You know, what kind of state is the battery in? So definitely ask for it. They can do it. They may not want to do it, but they can do it. Next, onto the front trunk. That's reared its ugly head again. So the other day I was just in a car park in a shopping centre, and there were some free charges there, so I thought I might as well take advantage of them and use that. So it's the first time I've had to get my cable out for a while, my AC charging cable. So I opened the front trunk, which is where I keep it, and lo and behold, it was absolutely sodden in the front trunk. Now, if you'd seen my videos in the past, but I'll just go through it again. I had this problem previously, and I had the car booked in, ready to have it looked at. And just after that, I started seeing some more water coming in through the car. I saw a bit of water coming in through the accelerator pedal actually first, and then I saw some water coming through the lights above my head. So I had to then mention that as well, to be checked, the whole thing to be checked, and I thought it might all be related. I initially thought the front trunk issue might be just something to do with the seal, but when I saw this other water coming in, I thought maybe it's all related. And just after that, when we went to use the car, it hadn't gone in yet. The car went completely dead and we couldn't drive it at all. So we had to have Jaguar Land Rover out and then the AA, and it was a long story. But anyway, we eventually had to have the car taken in a truck, and it was then found out to be the seal on the windscreen that was causing this problem. And I was told that was causing a problem for the front trunk, the water coming in through the accelerator pedal and the water I'd seen coming through the lights as well. So it was all related, and that got into the electrics, and therefore that's why it shut everything down. So I hadn't really looked at it again because I just thought it was fixed and sorted, and I hardly need to go into the front trunk generally. But as I looked in it, I found out that, yeah, it was still a problem. So clearly it hadn't been fixed. Hadn't seen any other issues I'd seen. So now I'm starting to think it's something different. Anyway, when I had the car taken in for the recall, I asked them to look at the front trunk again while it was in. And lo and behold, they've told me that it is down to the seal. They didn't have the part in stock, so they've had to order a new seal for me. And they did mention that they've actually got a few I-PACEs waiting for this seal, this part, to come in. So that was interesting. So if you have seen this problem, it could be two issues. Now, it could be the seal, it could be a leak in your windscreen. I really don't know which one. Could be both. Could have been both for me. But anyway, it seems to me to be quite logical that, yeah, the seal could be causing the issue. So you might want to get that checked out. But anyway, that's now the next thing I've got to wait for, and I'll have to go back in to have that sorted. But yes, let's come back again. Anyway, that's it for now. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.